The Special Investigating Unit says the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa still intends to use the trains that were previously reported to be, quote, too tall for the country's railway network. The SIU is investigating the awarding of tenders, including the controversial 3.5 billion Swifambo Rail locomotives contract, which the court set aside in 2017 due to irregularities in the procurement process. Earlier this year, President Cyril Ramaphosa issued a proclamation authorizing the SIU to probe PRASA and recover any financial losses incurred by the state, with the investigation spanning back to 2010. The SIU appeared in Parliament before SCOPA to give an update on these investigations. For more on this, we are now joined by the SIU spokesperson, Kaizer Kganyago. Kaizer, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So the information that was shared around the process still intending to use the so-called toll trains, can you just elaborate a bit more on that? Because previously we were told that the trains can't operate in the country because they are too tall for our network.
Thank you very much, Aldrin, and thank you to your viewers. This is not information that particularly comes from us as the SIU. Sorry. It is the information that came about and we were watching it happening. But as far as we were concerned, we were looking at that contract between the PRASA and Swifambo, where we found that there were irregularities in the process itself. But later, if you remember, there were issues in the technical side of things with PRASA, where they said that those trains were not even good enough for our rails and so on. But now it has come about that PRASA itself now wants to get those trains again and say they can use them, and this matter is now before the courts. We were just noting it to Parliament and making sure that they understand that this is what is happening, but as far as we are concerned, the issue of that contract still remains with irregularities, and we are indicating to Parliament what was happening there and how much was paid and what the money was used for.
Yeah, so I'm so sorry to go back to this. So does this then mean that with the SIU's investigation, you're only going to focus on the tender, and now that there is that PRASA is saying that we actually want to use some of those trains, what does it mean for the core of this investigation, which was also the procurement of equipment that cannot be used locally?
Yes, we are done with that part with our investigation, and that is why the contract was set aside by the courts, because we have concluded that part. Therefore, if they are going to get involved with buying the new trains or so on, it will be a new process altogether, because it cannot be used as part of the contract that we have set aside already.
Okay, and let's look at your investigation. One of the points that was raised is that 28 companies, including 16 directors, received a combined 776 million rand from Swifambo. Who are these directors? Who are these companies?
Yeah, it is very interesting that you asked that question. We indicated to Parliament yesterday that we cannot name these people because they are not charged. All that we were showing to them is that when we looked at the money that was paid, 776 million was paid to 28 entities, and we found that, for example, in one transaction, there was one transaction they paid 246 million to SARS. We will understand whether it is the money that was supposed to be paid to SARS, that we are dealing with SARS on. But in one of the transactions that we are referring to, 110 million was paid to this company. We don't name them for that purpose, Company A. And then we found that the directors of this Company A one of the directors was the former chairperson of PRASA board. And we then had suspicions around why these payments were done to this specific company. In other companies, where, for example, Company B received 1.5 million from Swifambo, and one of the companies was also director of Swifambo at the time of the payment. And therefore, there are many of such transactions, including the money that was paid to Company C, which received most of the money and from Swifambo, and then the director of that company was a director of Swifambo also.
Okay, just for clarity's sake, is it the former PRASA, a former PRASA CEO that could be linked to one of these companies, or is it a former PRASA board chairperson?
In the first transaction, it was a former chairperson. And then in this one where it was paid to Director C, sorry, we are still looking at the relationship between the former group CEO of PRASA and this company, Company C, that had directors from Swifambo.
Okay. Are you able to say who that former CEO is?
No, at the moment, we don't want, for the purpose of avoiding litigation, to be naming people. You can make up your own minds around who that person is.
Have you spoken to this former CEO as yet, as the SIU?
Yes, we have.
Are you able to share with us what his explanation or their explanation was around their link to the company as well as the money that was paid?
No, if we do that, Aldrin, we're going to have an issue, because when these matters are then taken to court, we're going to have an issue to say we have communicated what the stance of the people are at the moment, because they have to defend themselves. But all we can say is we are comfortable with the information before us, and we will make sure that if there is any challenge that is made, we will then deal with them based on the evidence that we have.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the article that was penned in the Mail and Guardian. One of the references that they make there is to the former finance deputy minister, who was also the board chairperson of PRASA at the time. Is that the chairperson that you're referring to?
I understand you'd want us to say that, but we do not want to do that, Aldrin, and let us just respect that. I understand the public will know when the time comes who these people are, but we are sure that in that transaction there was a former chairperson of the board, and then in this particular instance we are sure about this transaction with the group's Company C, which we are still looking at the relationship between the former group CEO of PRASA and this company.
Okay, another one is on the ghost workers. Tell us what the SIU found there.
Yes, with the ghost workers, the investigation is still going on. You'll remember there was a transaction that was, there was an investigation that was done by PRASA itself and called CVESE. And then we are now looking at what they have found, and because that is part of the new investigation that came up this year under Proclamation 153 of 2024, because the previous one we were done with it, but there is now a new one that emanates mainly from the state capture investigations. Therefore, we are still looking, but we have found that even the process of putting together this CVESE was not done in a proper manner, and therefore we are looking into all those transactions that happened during that period, and we will give the public information as and when we have finalized that part of the investigation.
Does the SIU have its own quantum of the number of so-called ghost workers? Because the last report that we got from PRASA was that around 2,143 employees were ghost workers.
At the moment, we are investigating 1,277 of these ghost workers, and we have so far finalized 620 of that, and the one that we're still ongoing is 657.
657. Okay. Just a quick one. As we move from this, how do we explain what a ghost worker is, considering that you speak about the 620 that are still that have been found, or that have been completed, the investigation?
Yes, in the main so far, what we have identified is that when people leave the organization, like as a retirement, or people die, or for whatever reason they are dismissed, they are not taken off the system, and there is continuous payment that is paid to whoever it is, because we are still investigating. We will have to check whether they were paying to the direct accounts of those people, the one that they used when they were still employed, or it was paid to the different accounts altogether. But in most of the instances so far, we see the people that were already on the system of PRASA and therefore either were left for one reason or the other are the ones that are in the main, these ghost employees.
Thank you so much for your time. Kaizer Kganyago is the spokesperson for the SIU. Really appreciate your time.